If you run paid traffic to book a call funnel, I'm going to show you how to lower your cost per book call and add hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional revenue to your top line without getting any better at online advertising. My name is Nabil Aziz. I'm the founder of Dropkick Copy. We are a boutique direct response copywriting agency, and we do a lot of email marketing for our clients. So today, what I'm going to show you is we're going to go over the results of 1 year of consistently emailing your list 3 times a week. But before I start, I'm going to give you some background about the client. They sell a coaching offer in the financial niche, and their primary source of traffic is YouTube ads to a webinar funnel. They get prospects to book a sales call and then close them on the phone. Pretty standard stuff. But they weren't emailing their list consistently besides a few basic automations and one-off broadcasts they'd send to their list whenever the calendars were light. So what we did was, as Dropkick Copy, we came in and started writing 3 direct response emails a week with a hard sell to book a call. No content, no value. The only thing that we did was we wrote entertaining, interesting emails and asked them to buy. That's all. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch to screen share, and we're going to see what these emails did for our client's business. So the first thing that we're going to look at are the open rates for these emails. Now, we were able to get excellent open rates on this list for a few reasons. Number one is that we were only emailing the engaged audience. Number two is that the client was spending a lot of money on paid traffic, and he was adding 500 to 1,000 fresh leads to the list every single month, or probably every single week, if I understand their paid traffic. And the other thing that we did was that we resent every email to the unopens on the following day. So we were sending 3 emails a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we would resend to the unopens with a different subject line and preview text. And because of that, you can see we were able to get sometimes a 60% open rate on our emails, many emails well over 50%. But if you look at the averages, you can see for the first 2 months, 47%, 50% average, 49% average, 51%, 45, 44, 44, 56, 46, 32, 41, 35, 45, and then below the cumulative open rate was 45%, which is excellent because we're emailing, actually it was more than 3 times a week because we were writing 3 emails for the client, but the client had their own lead nurture sequence and content emails that were going out a couple of other times a week. So all in all, the subscriber was getting maybe 5 emails a week, maybe 6 emails a week from the client. And to maintain a 45% open rate over an entire year, that is excellent. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that the open rates don't really matter. You can see from some of these emails, they'll have a really high open rate, but few book calls. In general, though, a high open rate means that more people are going to see the email, which means that more people are going to book calls. The only thing that we really care about from our side as the email marketer is how many calls are getting booked. And we'll have some emails where we'd have a great open rate, say 52% in this case, and only 4 book calls. And other emails will have the exact same open rate pretty much and book 25 calls or 16 calls. So really the only thing that matters is consistency, because you can send emails that get 60-70% open rates and they won't do a damn thing for your business. So the only thing that you care about at the end of the day is sales. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the click-through rate. All right. Now, I remember seeing the other day, the day before I recorded this screen share, somebody talking about how click-through rate on a B2C offer ought to be at least 10%. Frankly, this is bullshit. There are all sorts of ways that you can manipulate click-through rate on an email or in an email, and the most simple way is by adding a lot of links in your email and adding irrelevant links. E-commerce emails are really notorious for this, where they'll have links to pretty much everything. They'll have navigation in the header. The logo at the top will be linked. They'll have links to their social media accounts in the footer, and all of these things, they'll increase the click-through rate. So anytime you add more links in an email, naturally the click-through rate is going to go up. And on top of that, the more clickbaity your email is, the more curiosity-inducing the email is, the higher your click-through rate is going to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to end up with more sales. In our case, we were writing book a call emails, and we were giving a lot of context before we asked for the click, and there was only one click in every single email, and that the only call to action in every single one of our emails was to book a call. There were no extraneous links, unnecessary links, other than off and on we would link to their Trustpilot page so people could go check out the reviews. And so our click-through rate is low, under 1% average. And you can see 0.58 for the first 2 months, 0.45, 0.38, 0.51, 0.31, 0.21, 0.2, 0.29, 0.6, 0.35, and then I'll scroll down. Cumulatively for the entire year, we got a 0.41% click-through rate. The click-through rate doesn't matter because we ended up doing 30% of the company's revenue from email. Really, that's what you care about at the end of the day. And I'll show you an example of why clicks don't matter. I've got it highlighted up here. Look at this email. This email got a 2% click-through rate, which is like huge compared to the average that the list was getting. Booked 6 calls and closed 1. This email got a 0.2% click-through rate, booked 23 calls, and got 0 closes. All right? Open rates, click-through rates are a vanity metric, but I'll tell you where they are important. The open rate is important so you can identify, so that you can establish a baseline and identify trends, and so is the click-through rate. If your open rate on average for a list like this, if it's 44%, and then suddenly over a period of 1 to 2 months, your open rate drops down to 30%, there's a problem, right? So the individual open rate on an email isn't relevant, but the cumulative open rate and the trends are what is relevant. And the same thing for the click-through rate. You're able to establish a baseline. So you can identify where emails overperform, like in this highlighted email here, and you can identify where emails underperform, like this email here that only got a 0.1, despite the average being 0.4 something. And then in our case, as the email marketer for this coaching offer, what we're optimizing for is booked calls. So we don't care about open rate or click-through rate. As long as we're doing our job and booking calls, that's all that matters. And that leads me to the next thing. The performance of any one individual email is irrelevant as long as you are consistent. You're going to have some emails underperform. This one booked 2 calls. The very next email booked 18 calls and 18 calls after that. So we're really looking, on average, how many calls are we booking? And for this particular list, it was hovering around 150 calls per month. And you can see here, for the months of May and June, we booked 187 calls. That's 90 average. July, we booked 155. August, 148. September, 167. 131 calls booked. And then, what is this, November? So November, what happened was, and I'll talk about this in a bit, in November they were running a Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotion, so we didn't send that many book a call emails. So that was low. And then on December, they turned their ads off halfway through the month, and on top of that, list was burnt out. So we didn't book any calls during that month. And again, in January, their ads were off for a couple of weeks. And again, also the list was burnt out, so we didn't book that many calls in January. And then it started to pick up in February, even though we sent a few emails. You can see 10 emails, 10 calls booked for an email sent, and then 13 calls. And then it picked up again in March, 93 calls booked, 78 calls booked, despite sending fewer emails. And then March, even though only three emails were sent, they were able to book 39 calls. And one of the emails booked 20 calls. So over the course of the entire year, we were pretty much booking 10 calls every time we sent an email. And we were only emailing 3 times a week, not counting the resends to unopens. And then over the entire year, we booked 1,089 calls, 1,100 calls. We could probably have done better if not for the ads being turned off for essentially an entire month, and the Black Friday, Cyber Monday discount promo burning the list. Which then leads to the sales. And this is the only thing that really the client ought to care about. The calls can get booked, but if your sales team isn't consistent, if they aren't on point, nothing that I do as the email marketer is going to help. And you're going to see that happen as I go through the numbers. I'm not sure exactly what their cancellation rate or their no-show rate or their disqualification rate was, but I'm going to assume, and I'm going to be generous and say, of the calls booked, 50% actually showed up for the sales call. So the cancellation rate and no-show rate total adds up to 50%. And then of those that showed up, I'm going to assume generously that they ought to close at 20%. Ideally speaking, it should be higher, 25, maybe 30% if the sales team is really on point. What that means is out of the book calls, 10% will convert to a close. And that's what I'm assuming here. And you can see that from the expected number. So 190 calls booked. So that is expected number of closes is 19 deals, right? 10% of 190 is 19. And what they really closed was 15. So they underperformed the first 2 months. And then the next month, June, they were expected to close 16. They only closed 12. August, expected close 15. They only closed 8. So now they're really shitting the bed. The previous few months, they were just under slightly. So that might have been more cancellations and things like that. That could be, that's how we could account for it. So June or August, less than half of what was expected, or half of what was expected. September, expected 17, closed 5, despite booking 167 calls. This was our best performing month out of the entire year. 167 calls booked. Ought to have closed 17 deals. They ended up closing 5. October, expected 13, closed 7. So only 50% of the expected. November, okay, so while they were running the Black Friday Cyber Monday event, they were running a massive discount to their core offer. The core offer, again, the price varied, but it was around, let's say it's around 4,000 British pounds. The discount offer was $9.97. So it was 80% off or 75% off. And because of that, we weren't running that many book a call emails. They already had their Black Friday, Cyber Monday emails that they used from the previous year, and they were just running those. So the expected number of deals, despite the calls booked, were 3, and they ended up closing 9, which is obvious because they were running a 75% off offer. So the only time they overperformed was when there was a massive 75% discount. So that's not a W, in my book at least. December, they were still pretty much running the extended discount offer. And then the ads were off for 2 weeks. We actually stopped emailing for the second half of the year because everybody was off. I don't see why, but that was the decision that the client made. So we only ended up booking 7 calls. So only 1 expected deal at they closed 5. And again, most of those deals were the discount offer. In January, the ads were off again for a couple of weeks, so we didn't close that many deals there, and so they actually performed as expected. Again, they sold a few of the discount offers, and they sold 1 at a premium, which is quite rare. They sold one deal at 6K. That's a rare W. February expected was 3, they delivered 5. So now the ads are rolling and they're generating fresh leads, and they've also tried to increase their prices, and so they're overperforming based on the number of deals closed and the revenue collected. So they're trying to raise the price to like a little over 4K, close to 5K, and they're having some success with that. March, pretty much the same thing, better prices, fresh leads, and now again they've started to underperform. Expected 9 deals, closed only 5. April was a little bit better. They're starting to get a little bit more consistent. What I'll assume is that they've got new sales blood in the team, and those salespeople are performing. I'll talk a little bit more about their sales team in a second. Expected 8 deals, closed 9. May, even though they sent only 3 emails, expected 4 deals and they closed 6. So starting to get a little bit better in terms of the efficiency of the marketing, the sales conversion rates. But overall, for the entire year, they were expected to close 109 deals, and I was being very conservative here. Expected 109 deals, they only closed 89. So that's 20 deals they missed out on at least. And then the expected value, the opportunity cost of those lost deals was £80,000 or $102,000. That is essentially out of the money that we made them. If you add up the total, 317,000 revenue plus 102, so 25% more. So a quarter more should have been added to their revenue if the sales team was performing. Let's look at now the revenue and cash. Actually, before that, let's look at let's talk about the sales team some more. So I already mentioned the inconsistent closing rate, consistently underperforming to expected conversion rates, and I have a few guesses why. One is that the sales team, the actual team composition was not consistent. They were always churning sales reps throughout the entire year. They had a rough time finding good fits, and they kept, if I remember correctly, they kept getting their sales team from Cold Gordon's companies, which is a big no-no. I've lost count because I used to work with one of Cold Gordon's competitors, and I would hear from the clients so many cases of people hiring sales reps from Cold Gordon and those sales reps being essentially lemons and not working out. So that was another problem, hiring shitty sales reps from a boiler room type of operation. And because of these two things, inconsistent closing rate and the high churn of the sales reps, they were consistently under target every single month. The other problem was that the pricing was inconsistent. So they were trying to enroll people at whatever price they could manage. Let me see some examples right here. This was the average for the core offer, £3,800 throughout most of the year. But they were closing people at $1,500, at $1,600, at $2K. The pricing was all over. Some people did close at a higher rate. I think I showed you one where they closed a guy at $6K. And then on top of that, in November, they did the Black Friday Cyber Monday offer where they discounted the entire thing to $997. I would never do that for a high ticket offer. It's just brand suicide. And then the other thing I would consider is that high quality systems for follow-up, pre-call, post-call, that kind of thing. The sales team's closing rate as a whole is going to be a lot better. The inconsistent pricing throughout the year is one thing, but then you run Black Friday Cyber Monday promotion where you discount your core offer, your high ticket offer, 75% off. It goes down from 4K to 1K. And then you push that offer hard during the entire month of November. And what's going to happen is you're borrowing from the future to pay for today. So now everybody who was on the list, who was on the fence, is going to buy your $997 offer. They might have bought at the future at some point if you had waited a little while at full price. But now you've just given them a 75% off discount. Everybody who was going to buy in the future ends up buying today. And now you've basically wrung the list dry of all your potential demand. in November. Then what's going to happen is you've basically used up all of your sales for the next 6 months, and you're not going to get more sales from this list. You've overfished from the pool, and now you have to wait for the fish to make babies so that you can start fishing again. And so what that means in the email marketing sense is that you have to wait until you add a bunch of new fresh leads to the list that you can continue to sell to. So that's problem number one. You've overfished the pool. The next thing that's going to happen is now, to the people who've been on your list, now you're a discount brand. Now I know that at some point during the year, all I got to do is wait till November. If they only run a Black Friday, Cyber Monday promo, all I got to do is chill until November, and I know I can get 75% off. So why would I buy at full price? Why would I buy a high ticket offer at full price if you're just going to discount it 75%? And then now during November, you've marketed so hard and you've pulled so many sales out of the list that you kill the revenue of the list for the next few months until you can buy enough leads to revive the list. And that's what in November, in December, in January, revenue numbers. If I was this client, I would not discount their core offer, or if I was any kind of coach with a high ticket offer, I would not discount their core offer ever. That should be the premium, that should be their Rolls Royce offer. Maybe not the Rolls Royce would be the back end offer. If I want to run a Black Friday Cyber Monday promo, I would create a lower ticket product that's maybe a section of their core product taken out that can still get results for the prospect, and get them to buy that at a lower rate, something that's priced a little bit more affordably, and then upsell them into the core offer that is unchanged. Never discount your core offer if you're a high ticket consultant, coach, or service provider. So let's look at the cumulative numbers for the entire year. Now this business, like I said earlier, does about $1 million to $1.5 million revenue in dollars. And our efforts, the revenue we generated for this client, from email we were able to do about 20 to 30% of their revenue. And this was basically 70% cash collected. And they were able to, because of the way that we set up the pricing on this, they were able to get 10% or not 10%, 10x ROI. 10x ROI. So that's pretty good for an entire year of email marketing. 3 emails a week, get a 10x ROI. However, because of the issues with the offer, namely the pricing and the discounting, and because of the issues with the sales team, they should have done a lot more revenue. Like I said, the opportunity cost at a minimum was $102,000. So they should have made 6 figures more if they had performed a little bit better. So what they should have made was $400,000 as opposed to $300,000. So they should have made 25% more. And the other way that they could have increased the revenue without changing anything, they should have a back-end offer. To my knowledge, that this client doesn't have a back-end offer. And this back-end offer, let's say, so they close 90 people, right? Say 10% of those close to end up upgrading to the back end at, let's say, $25,000. So that's $225,000 they could have added to this revenue. So instead of $300,000, they would have made $500,000. So they would have made 60 or 70% more if they just add a back-end offer. That's without changing any of the performance on the emails or the sales team. So that's a case study, or just the look at the emails over the year. What I'll do now is I'll summarize the lessons. I'm going to go over it in 2 ways. I'm going to go over it from our perspective as the email marketing agency, what we can do better to help clients like this, and then what the client can do better to get more out of the email marketing that we're doing. So the first thing that we would do is more marketing and less selling. And this is where I think daily emails can be really helpful, because it lets you take your foot off the gas pedal and relax a little bit. And it allows you to write more content emails, build a relationship with your list, focus more on things like telling stories and giving testimonials and success stories and things like that. And just in general, add a little bit more value to the list so that you can create more goodwill and pent-up demand before you make the ask. And it also lets the prospect buy on their own timeline as opposed to yours. And in order to do this, you have to convince the client of the value of content. In this case, our client, they only wanted to send 3 emails a week, and they weren't really that interested in doing daily emails. We should have probably pushed a little harder, but in this instance, the way the compensation was set up for the work that we did, it wasn't really in our favor to send more emails that weren't actually actively trying to get a sale. Although it could be argued that had we sent more content emails and added more value to the list, that down the line, second or third order effect, that might have led to more calls booked. But in this case, it wouldn't have really mattered so much because the client was having so many issues with their sales team, which leads me to what the sales team can do better. The first thing that I would suggest is remove the variables. We saw that this client was letting the sales team close prospects at whatever price they can afford to pay. None of that. There's one price. The core offer is one price. The only thing that it can do is go up when you decide to increase the price down the line. So there's one price, and they either pay in full or there's one payment plan. None of these messing around with different payment plans, and no 12-month payment plan. Do like a 3-pay or 4-pay, that's it. The second thing that I would suggest is that you do a pipeline review every single day, and you're really on the sales reps' asses, about are they doing their pre-call follow-up? Are they doing their post-call follow-up? And the pre and post-call follow-up, what that's going to allow the sales team to do is be very aggressive on app filtration. And you might need to make some adjustments to your application in order for that to happen. So they didn't watch the webinar, cancel the call. You don't like their answers on the application, maybe they've given you like short one-liners, or they seem like they're not that serious, cancel the call. If they give you a vibe or even a hint of a vibe that they might be broke, they don't have money, cancel the call. The only people that your sales team should be getting on the phone with are people that can buy. The core offer never gets discounted. If you want, you can make a downsell, an entry-level offer that you can pitch to people who aren't qualified for the core offer. That's still going to allow them to get results. But never discount your core offer. And finally, add a back-end offer. So we saw that we got 90 deals for the entire year. You could have easily converted 10% of those into a high-ticket back-end offer and added several $100,000 more to your revenue from email marketing. This is another thing that I wanted to talk about is, for this particular client, we offered them a performance deal because we had not done performance pay only for a client before. I wanted to see how that would pan out. It worked out really well in the client's favor because they got 10x or more than 10x ROI, but it wasn't very enjoyable for us to do because there was so much inconsistency on the sales team side. After this experience, I would never ever, for a coaching offer or any offer that sells on the phone, I would never work on performance unless the client can show me or prove to me that the sales team is consistent and always on point. If he says they close at 20%, they close at 20%. So that I can have some expectation of, listen, if I book this many calls, these many are going to close, and that's going to incentivize me to actually take the risk to work on performance. A few months we had good months, but most of the months the sales team way underperformed, and we lost out on a lot of additional revenue because they weren't closing. I'd much rather charge a fair price for my work, and then it's on you to get the results out of it. Because if you think about it from one way, we're sending these emails and booking these calls, and essentially we're sending them free money, and there's no additional cost to them to get those calls booked on the calendar because all they have to pay is the performance fee. So there's no incentive for them to improve the sales process to close those calls. So yeah, anytime you want to do a deal with a service provider, say a copywriter or an ad agency or whoever, you got to make sure that the incentives are aligned properly. there can't be any sort of imbalance where you're getting the benefit of a vendor working on performance fees, and there's no skin in the game on your part to do the necessary work to actually get the best out of the efforts that they put in. All right, there you have it. That's our 1-year email marketing case study for a coaching offer, or really it would work for any kind of book a call funnel. So coaching, consulting, agency services, that kind of thing. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you want somebody to help you with your email marketing, find us online, send us a DM, or you can email us. We're very easy to find. We're Dropkick Copy. That's dropkickcopy.com.